Hey guys, let's figure out and take a look at how to play Charon, the newest character in Reverse 1999.
I want to go home. This body is a vessel of suffering.
There are two things that we have to know before we jump into battle. That is that once we have accumulated 40 dynamos and funneled them into the pulsing field on level 1, it will immediately be leveled up to level 3, and that we do not accumulate dynamos specifically with Charon, but we accumulate shockwave stacks. Those stacks are accumulated to make Charon channel his ultimate longer, for a longer duration of time. The way we accumulate these shockwaves, there are multiple ways. We can either gain excess moxie or we can kill an enemy. The main way we accumulate these stacks of shockwave is by funneling dynamos into the pulsing field while it is on level 3. For every dynamo that we funnel into this electric field, into the pulsing field on level 3, we gain 1 stack of shockwave. That is why Ezra is not 100% needed, but it makes the team a little bit more convenient to play and helps Charon out to channel his ultimate longer, due to Ezra being the only sustain character in the game that is able to accumulate dynamos. Everything else can be easily explained in battle, so let's hop in there. The first thing that you should do is you should change your first melody into the unfinished tune. That is so that we can accumulate incantations for Charon before we use his ultimate, because his ultimate takes all the incantations from Charon out of our hand and accumulates shockwaves depending on how many incantations we fed into the ultimate channel, so to speak. I will explain this one more time next turn. So you see, we start the battle off with 4 moxie accumulated for Charon. We already applied our debuff incantation to our enemy. That is thanks to our Insight 3. So the only thing that we have to do on turn 1 is his buff incantation, because this not only grants him 20 stacks of shockwave, but also a buff to the entire team, our team, and it increases our crit rate by a whooping 30%. That is what we always gonna use. Additionally, we of course gonna use the amplified incantation with Lucy, and now we can either apply a shield with Ezra to our team. It depends a little bit on what content you face. Right, in this battle I know that I'm not gonna be in danger to take too much damage, or I can never die here. And that's why I don't need to use Ezra's buff incantation, and I can activate both of Ulrich's channels already. This is already how Charon changes the rotations, because without Charon you would have to accumulate Ezra's dynamos, and you will have to use an incantation with Ezra. With Charon, that is no longer necessary, because you can see that on turn 2 we have Charon's ultimate already up, and we're gonna use that. But remember what I said about the unfinished tune, right? Before we want to use Charon's ultimate, we want to make sure to have as many incantations of his in our hand as possible, and the unfinished tune helps us accomplish exactly that, because as you can see, it creates 2 incantations for Charon for ourselves. That makes Charon have more stacks of shockwave, which grants him penetration rate and increases his damage output, and he channels his ultimate for a longer duration. After that, you're gonna make sure that the debuff Fear of Death is applied to our enemies. You can see that is not the case. So what we want to do is we want to use the debuff incantation. So the debuff is applied. We want to check our allies if the peaceful song is, the peaceful soul, excuse me, is on our allies, right? His buff incantation would be that. That is the case. Now we applied the debuff. Now it is time to actually use our ultimate. After that, we're gonna use every single incantation that we have available with Lucy. In case you would have spare AP at this point, because maybe you don't have the debuff incantation for Charon, or you maybe only have one incantation ready for Lucy, then you apply a buff with Ezra, or you channel, activate an incantation with Ulrich to reapply his channel, right? If you can, you're gonna go as nuts as you possibly can with Lucy, of course. You don't necessarily would have to use the debuff incantation here first with Charon, but it is still recommended. It is more effective than letting this incantation be absorbed by his ultimate, right? You always want to apply the debuff with Charon first. Boom, there you go. And now you will see that our electric searching field, there it is on max level. It is on level 3. And now it is time to use Ezra, because we want to accumulate as many stacks of Dynamo as possible. Because Ezra can, at the end of every single turn, put 20 Dynamos into the pulsing field, which helps Charon get stronger by accumulating shockwave stacks. So this is what you want to do. Additionally, there's something very interesting here, because if you have, which you will always have, accumulated enough stacks of shockwave, then the ultimate from Charon and from the ally in front of Charon will not cost you AP this turn. I can demonstrate this here. You can see we have 4 AP. Using the Ulrich's ultimate would not cost us any AP. So that is what you want to do. Remember that in this case you would want to reactivate Ulrich channel. Both of his incantation is what you want to activate before you use his ultimate. In my case I can't do that because I don't have his incantations available. So I'm gonna use his ultimate. I'm gonna use Ezra twice, so she accumulates 20 dynamos, which will then be funneled into the electric searching field, or the pulsing field as it is called nowadays. And after that I'm gonna use everything that I have available with Lucy again. And you can see this is the difference between playing this team with Charon and without Charon. That you don't want to accumulate dynamos right out of the gate, but you want to wait until the pulsing field is on level 3, which will be the case very, very fast, thanks to Charon. And after it is on level 3, that is when you want to accumulate these dynamos. And you do this, of course, mainly by using Ulrich and Ezra. And there we go. Now one round is left for our pulsing field, and this is the turn where you will end most of the battles that are available to you in this game, right? Let's see, Peaceful Soul is still active, so we don't have to reapply the buff. The debuff is not active on the enemy. That's a little bit tragic, but before we reactivate it, right? Yeah, I mean, we can't even reactivate it because we don't have his incantation, but we could use our unfinished tune. And so, yeah, you always want to go as nuts as you possibly can with Lucy. As I said, this is the turn where you want to end the battle, and therefore you use everything that you can with Lucy. You can see I would have one spare AP, so I can even go as far, use the unfinished tune to accumulate more incantations with Lucy. See, there we go. Now I can use all of my AP up with Lucy and win the battle. And that's really how you play the Dynamo archetype team, including Charon. This is how you end every battle in the game, pretty much, right? If the battle would go on for longer, you just repeat the process, right? Now, as well, you can see that we have accumulated 3 Moxie with Charon. in a battle that you would know will prolong longer than this, you could have produced more Moxie with Charon, right? You just would have needed to use one incantation, whatever it might be, and now you could recast your ultimate with Charon already again, and that would level up the pulsing field one more time to level 3. And yeah, that's really about it, right? Check if the buff is active, which will always be. Check for the debuff if it's not on your enemy, and if you have it in your hand, use that, right? Use Lucy as much as you possibly can, and it depends on the content that you face. If you need to use Ezra and her shielding and stuff, you're gonna go ahead and do that. If that is not the case, then you can always reapply the channels via Ulrich. And that's really about it. It all depends on you playing the first 2 turns, right? And then you go completely nuts, right? In the 3rd turn, you're gonna apply, of course, 2 incantations with Ezra to funnel these 20 extra dynamos into the electric searching field. Depending on the situation, that is not even necessary, right? It always depends on how much incantations do you have available for Lucy. It's always you want to lose Lucy every single turn as much as you possibly can, right? And that will end you the battle as fast as possible. Every battle will end at like round 4 or 5 at max, and that's gonna be about it, guys. There's a little bit more we have to talk about, because of course we want to take a look at his resonance and his Psycube. Now, to find out how to build his resonance is pretty simple, because you can see here that this buff, it gives you 30% critical hit rate. And yeah, it is a total of 50% crit rate altogether. If we also take everything else into account, it's 50%, right? Trust me with that. And that is a whole bunch of crit rate that you apply to your entire team. Now it gets interesting, because he converts the excess critical hit rate, which you will always have, to critical damage. That's how you find out, and that's how you know that you want to build his resonance to give him as much critical hit rate as possible. And this is the build right here that I found to be the most effective. I'm gonna leave a link to this in the description down below, in case you want to use this exact resonance pattern as well. Then his Psycube is his signature Psycube. You can just purchase this in the shop. It is available there. And what it says, see, it gives you an additional critical hit rate. You see how easy it is. You will always have excess critical hit rate, and the more you have, the better, because you will deal more damage with your crits. What this Psycube says though is, if the carrier is a spirit character, and then a channel. You know, Charon is a spirit character, and he always channels his ultimate non-stop. Then, when attacking, damage dealt plus 16%. At the end of the round, if the carrier transfers dynamos into the pulsing fields, which he does every single turn, at least 1 time for the round, all allies gain critical damage plus 8%, and this can stack up to 3 times. You see, he buffs your entire team with critical hit rate and critical damage out of the wazoo. He levels up the pulsing field from level 1 to level 3 faster than anyone else in this game. He deals a quite significant amount of damage at the end of every single turn, which synergizes beautifully with Ulrich, because Ulrich does the same. And then whenever an enemy dies, you know that Lucy goes apeshit with her follow-up attack, and Charon also profits from enemies dying, because he gains stacks of shockwaves, which again, it increases his penetration rate and his damage output. So yeah, I mean, you can easily see why this is truly a match made in heaven and a must-play character. The buffs that he applies to your team are like, you cannot not have them. It's impossible. Let's take a look at his portraits as well here. Advice from the Dead and Peaceful Soul. Extra critical hit bonus gained from every stack of Consternation is increased to 7.5. The excess critical hit rate conversion is now increased to 100, otherwise it's 80%. When Charon has 4 or more stacks of Consternation, he will always have that, right? Once you have accumulated a certain amount of stacks of Shockwave, you gain discustination buff, which gives you penetration rate, and yeah, it's basically all about the shockwave stacks. So this portrait number 1, yeah, pretty good, increases your damage output by quite a bit. Not a must-have, but if you get it, that is super nice. Then his portrait number 2 is very interesting, and it could lead you to the wrong path. Let's read it and then let me explain. When entering battle, the stacks of Dynamo gained are increased to 30 instead of 20. The stacks of Shockwave gained are increased to 90 instead of 80. Or is it 80? I think it's 80. And Moxie gained is increased to 3. So that would mean you would start the battle off with your ultimate already up. That sounds like an absolute must-have, right? It sounds too good to pass up, but that is actually not the case, because you want to wait to turn 2 before you use your ultimate anyways. Mainly because of the unfinished tune and it increases your channel, right? It is not 100%, like it doesn't do much. This portrait 2, it doesn't do too much is what I'm trying to get across here. It seems like it increases your speed by 1 turn, right? You would be 1 turn faster, but that is not actually the case, because you want to delay using your ultimate every single time by 1 turn anyways. Also, if the battle prolongs and you unlock your ultimate for the second time, which is mainly when the electric searching field is still on level 3 for 1 round. You want to rate this 1 round out, and after that, after the pulsing fields reset, you want to use your ultimate again, right? But it's not that big of a deal to watch out for. Then his portrait number 3, that is what actually would increase his damage output by a significant amount, but it is not worth going that far considering how his portrait number 2 and 1 look. So that's about his portraits, right? Of course, going all the way to 5 and 4 is not bad, right? Needless to explain. But yeah, if you want to gain a portrait for Charon, I would advise you to stop at portrait number 1. And that's about it, guys. I hope that video was fun and informative. If you like Reverse1999 content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel. I would really appreciate it. But until next time, take care of yourself. Don't forget to join the Discord server. Link is also in the description down below. Take care of yourselves. Have a great day. And we love this game.